What's up, everybody? This is Dominic D'Angelo of FourHorsemenNetwork.com. I'm also of SCScoops.com, a dirt sheet writer, if you will. I am here today with Greg Gagne, Magnum TA. It is straight talk with the boss, and I'm happy to be here with these guys. How you doing, fellas? Good to see you again.
I was doing pretty good till Trump got that verdict.
Whew, WWE Hall of Famer Donald Trump. Holy smokes.
TA, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing so good. I can't hardly stand myself.
Are you working hard for the company?
I'm working hard for everybody. Everybody. Yeah, I come over. Can I shovel something over your house? I'll come on over.
I'm here by myself. Send them over.
Did Go set you up then? Or
Go got a call last night from sister, one of her sisters, and she's actually going to the Timberwolves game tonight.
Really?
Yeah. Her one sister is married to Tim, who used to be with Target, and he sold them those carts for the kids to ride the babies in the wheel carts. Mm-hmm. He sold that for a ton of money.
Pretty
so they live in Palm Springs, so he bought 2 tickets to the Timberwolves games, $800 a ticket. She's sitting in the 10th row.
What?
So she's with her sister and brother-in-law and nephew. And we had to go buy whites for her today for the whiteout. So that cost me a couple $100. And then Trump got convicted. So I'm in a really good mood today.
Hey, we're live here too, guys.
Thank God we got TA to bail us out.
Thank goodness. We're live. Guys, if you want some comments, get them in. Use the super chat. If you use the super chat, you'll make history because you'll be our first ever super chat on this. So use it, and you will be in the annals of time here on Four Horsemen Network. Guys, Cat Ash, see you in there. Hello, CB. Hello, Eric. Good stuff. Yes, be sure to like, subscribe, share. We're also live on Arn's Twitter account, Arn Anderson's Twitter account. He just announced his exit from AEW, guys. That's a big loss, I think, for AEW. He hasn't been on television in quite a while, but he wants to focus on his son Brock and developing him and getting the name out there for him. Magnum, what do you think about Arn Anderson leaving AEW?
I think ever since Cody left, that he found little appreciation for what he brought to the dance, and I think it's a tremendous loss for the company. But if you're not going to utilize the tools you got in the toolbox, then you might as well let them go somewhere else.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Greg, we talk about how they need to have some people behind the scenes to kind of perpetuate a good mentality of how to book and lay things out and things like that, and Arn's such a valuable commodity when it comes to all that kind of stuff. So him is a big thing,
and other people too. And I talked to a couple earlier today, and I don't want to throw out their names, but they weren't very happy with what's going on with the WWE, and they don't know what directions they're really going. I mean, when I watch it, I think they're set pretty solid in the directions they're going. So, I don't know what's going on there, but, when you lose people like Arn Anderson and other people that were back there, and I'm not going to throw out any names, it's tough. And, everybody thinks they know the business and they know how to run it, but there's really very few people that really click with it, and look at the entire picture. A lot of guys in wrestling, TA, I'm sure you experience this too, they think only about themselves and they don't think about the entire picture. And if you don't have the people running it that see that whole picture, and I think Triple H sees it great, and probably The Rock does. So I don't know what they meant by internally. They think there's some problems there, but who knows?
Who does know? It's difficult.
It just because, maybe because they let go, they have bad feelings, and they're just saying that because what do you think, TA? I mean, you watch the direction they're going. I think it's pretty solid.
I think it's we portray episodic soap opera, and it's always going to be that. and sometimes the soap opera is good, sometimes it's not good, and the soap opera that goes on backstage is generally better than what you portray on the camera. So I think that's just that's just the nature of the beast. And when people are playing nice and making money and happy with what they're doing, everybody seems to feel like they're in a warm fuzzy place. But no matter what organization you end up in, bottom line is it's a business, and everybody's in the business to make money. It's very easy to say, "Oh, I loved it so much, I'd have done it for nothing," but none of us could afford to have done it for nothing. And that's just fantasy, kid stuff to think that you don't have responsibilities in the world. And there is definitely a reward for having great performances, and that's what the business was always about: drawing people and intriguing them. And again, the WWE is doing some amazing stuff, and there's bits and pieces, all out there. I'm truly glad there is an alternative, because if it's as good as the WWE is, if there wasn't AEW, if there wasn't TNA, if there wasn't these other things happening, it would be too one-dimensional. What I really am intrigued by is the TNA NXT collaboration thing. To me, that is particularly for us, PowerTown, being as we're narrowing in. By the time this airs, it will be closed. But as we're doing this, right this minute, we have 48 hours to the close for the TNA Series 1, pre-sale. It's cool to see this collaboration going on between two promotions and utilizing their stars. And they came right out in the social media world and said, this is just the beginning. There's going to be more cross promotion and more crossing over of stars back and forth. And that is really good for business. If they could somehow, between those groups and including AEW, figure a way to do that universally, that could change the whole game. Not that WWE needs it, but the shot in the arm it would give the industry to see that crossover, and not trying to steal someone's talent, but just to interject, because people are fantasy booking all the time and thinking, oh, I'd love to see so and so and so and so together. Oh, but it'll never happen. Well, what if those things could happen? Mm-hmm. And what if it wasn't the forbidden door anymore? And everybody could find a sensible rhyme and reason way to go about and inject it where it makes sense, because it would help everybody. It would help WWE's the perception of the wrestling universe. It would just elevate them even more, make them look like they really are just the classiest act, going. And then in turn, it would help those organizations boost their people up even more by interacting with, the WWE superstars. So
do you think Tony Khan would go for that?
I don't know. I mean, I hate to judge a book by its cover, but I mean, I think the fact that their ratings and their inconsistencies in their shows are as such that they've got enough money that they maybe can afford to just do what the heck they want to till the cows come home.
Yeah.
Will the networks be happy getting the product that they're getting, the ratings the eyes are getting on their shows because of them? That might be a different thing. But money, strong money can take you a long way, and that's certainly very strong money. I don't see Tony would turn down that offering if it was made in such a way that it would enhance his company, and bring them up. But he has said such kind of childish things and retaliatory of things that have gone on and words have been spoken. It might be a little bit of a stretch to put.
Well, a guy like Cody could maybe Cody could pull that thing together.
It's a good point.
Could he? But would he want to? You know, I think he, he's the Renaissance man, and what a, amazing job he's doing so far, carrying that role for the company. I went back and watched the pay-per-view from over the weekend, and watched him and Logan Paul, and my gosh, I mean, Cody is really on a level from the psychological standpoint of painting that picture like the old school days, but mixing all that modernization along with it. That he took a kid. That I think that's the first time I've seen Logan in a one-on-one type deal, without other supporting cast, let's say, to help him in his endeavor, and it held up really good.
That kid, I'll tell you what, for the short time he's been doing that, he's phenomenal. He really caught on quick. And now his brother, he's going after Mike Tyson, right?
That's right. Yeah, July.
They're all making money. I mean, it's a money making. They're money making monster.
And here we are. We're sitting here with Dom, and we're just scratching just to get people to view and watch what we've got to say.
Well, is that what you're doing? I am on top of the daggone world. I come out here to have fun with you guys. You're trying to get people to watch.
I thought someday we would get paid for this, but I guess we don't.
No. Where is that spirit?
This is even better. Now I can relax.
Hey, we do got almost 300 people tuning in live right now, so woo. It's a pretty good start.
That might be a woo.
I will say about Logan Paul. Wow, I wasn't kidding. After I watched that match, I texted a couple of my buddies, and I was like, he might be one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers right now, like modern, because he's so good at being a heel, like a coward chicken shit heel. Like when he got put in that figure 4 Magnum by Cody, and he's like, he's gonna break my leg. He's gonna break my leg, and he's reaching for the ropes. It's just good stuff. It's just like he gets it so much quicker than a lot of these other talents that have been doing it for years now, and he understands the whole ins and outs of it.
Yeah, now go back a minute. You said they're your top 5 guys. The 2 above you, where do we stand in that deal?
Well, you're not active wrestlers yet. Once you guys strap the boots back on and you guys actually go one-on-one, then you'll be in the top 5.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So you're one of definitely my top 5 favorite legends, though. I'll say that much.
There we go, TA.
But yeah,
I'm about to be 65, still 10 years, of course, behind Mr. Greg. But yeah, my aspirations of ever having that kind of boot on again is way far in the rearview window.
I'm forgetting more every day, believe me.
Well, you're better off that way sometimes.
No, not with my kids. I made some big mistakes this weekend. Holy crap, did I get torn apart here.
Well, hey, touch upon that a little bit, Magnum, about seeing Jordynne Grace on NXT. You mentioned how cool it is for that crossover. And here we got somebody that's in the PowerTown figure line that's available still. As this is being recorded live, you can still pre-order these figures here for the bundle, $189.99, or you get each figure individually for $49.99. Go to PowerTownWrestling.com or just scan that QR code that you see right there and go right there. But Magnum, let's get your thoughts on seeing Jordynne Grace, that presence that she has, and kind of giving that, pun not intended, impact to what we saw in NXT.
I think she is a viral phenomenon waiting to happen. She has poured so much energy in, not only transforming her body, but elevating her in-ring skills, and her poise on the camera and her communication is like somebody been in the business 20 years. I mean, she comes off so much better than like 90% of the women that I've seen, get the mic put in their face. And, she is probably destined, obviously to be at the big show and be a WrestleMania star, within the next 2 to 3 years. I mean, she's that kind of, and it's because of her ability to present herself through the communication part, not just that aura and that look. She's just got a real cool vibe going, and yeah, I mean, I popped. I said, "Oh my gosh, what are they doing?" And of course, we didn't even know. It was a surprise to us, like it was the world, and it couldn't have been any cooler timing because she's leading the pack in sales with the run, and she's the little mini mite that's pulling the train, for this whole effort. I mean, all the TNA stars that we're doing are spectacular, but she's just the like the gem in the middle of the crown, and it's just cool to see her going on this journey and see where she's going with it. I hope she makes a lot of noise in NXT, and I hope that the next step is that she gets an opportunity to roll in there, and next time we see her on SmackDown or something.
Yeah.
Can I divulge one of the big signings this last week?
Ooh.
No, you may not.
I can't.
Got to keep them sealed, lips sealed there, Greg.
Really? Boy,
Whew.
she's dynamite.
Ooh.
But you asked. That was good.
Well, I'm
She's
excited.
one of the top stars around the world.
Oh boy.
I won't say though. I'm not going to say anymore.
Okay.
TA gets so mad at me when I do that.
Flying close to the sun, Greg. You're like Icarus.
Well, we're working hard here, and TA's been pulling things together for PowerTown. Him and Steve Rosenthal, and boy, look down the future here. A few more months, and things are going to explode for PowerTown.
Very exciting. I'm so excited. And Magnum, what is going to be announced next down the line? Is it the Ultra Series 2? What's next on
Ultra Series 2? Ultra Series 2, which was supposed to originally come online in February, but we had some artistic things we were dealing with, and a couple of the people that we're doing the figures of, and which made us had to do a little pivot to redesign some things. So it pushed us to go ahead and get the TNA launch done first, but that will be next, and of course that's it's going to be spectacular because Dory Funk Jr., Jack Briscoe, Wahoo McDaniels, JYD, Kamala. Who's the other one in that? Oh, and what am I thinking? And Medusa, our first ever Ultra, women, superstar. And, she is such a trailblazer in the whole women's, history. It's so cool that we're going to get to do the representation of her that we are from her WCW days when she stirred up such great controversy by dropping the title in the trash can, and all the stood up to the big boys and made some noise and got a lot of respect at the end of the day, because she didn't get pushed around.
Yeah, I'm excited.
She broke in at the AWA, and I made quite a few trips with her.
Yeah,
got some great stories. She doesn't like me telling them, but we'll tell one of these days when her doll comes out. We'll bring her on.
Hey, there we go. Yeah, she's a great interview personality, great person. Let's see. I got a question here from Steven Chambers from way back from my WrestleZone days. Hi, Magnum, TA, and Greg. Huge fan. Question: what's your take on WWE and AEW, and do you guys have any favorites? So overall, Steven kind of mentioned WWE and what we thought about that, and Greg and Magnum both have their takes on AEW. We want a little bit more booking and a little bit more cohesiveness, but I don't want to speak for those guys. Who are some of your guys' favorites? Greg, let's start with you.
Oh, along the WWE, I've got a lot of favorites. The Usos, Drew McIntyre, of course, Cody. Their whole roster up and down is just, it's hard not to find somebody you don't like on there.
It is.
I mean, it really is. A&W,
A&W root beer?
Yeah. Those guys make a great drink.
I love it.
AEW guys, I just have a hard time following the program.
Mm-hmm.
You've got some great talent down there, without a doubt. And I just, to me, they don't have that one person that can make the decision for everybody and tell them what they need to do or how to change it. And they're kind of on their own, the wrestlers, and figuring out what they want to do. You know, and the way I was taught, you listen to them and then you work it out for them. You lay the thing out. Don't let them, because they'll screw it up for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's the way I was brought up in the business, you know, and Vern had a hand on it. He let everybody have their input, and then he had the final say on how everything went. And that's, I feel like the WWE has that. AEW, I don't feel they have that. It's like they get something going over here and something over there, and the next week it's something else with the same people, different people. You know, the storylines just aren't quite there for me. TA?
Yeah, Magnum, who are some of your favorites? And give me your overall thoughts just on some.
Well, I'm like, you know, I'm like Greg. I don't think there's not one talent on the WWE roster that, you know, I don't ultimately think, you know, deserves to be there. I'm getting a real kick out of watching Steiner's kid, Braun Breaker, because he's just, you know, a throwback to his dad, and you know, so quick, so intense, so explosive. You know, they're giving him, you know, quite the push, and it's just it's kind of refreshing because it's a throwback to obviously something that was done 25, 30 years plus back with Goldberg and different. But he's such an athlete and so gifted. So, you know, that's fantastic. And and again, there's tons of talent mixed, all sprinkled in the AEW roster as well. You know, I love that, you know, Edge and House of Black feud. You know, that whole deal. Yeah. You know, there's just so many guys there, and I was really surprised to see MJF come back.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because he's, you know, certainly, you know, an amazing talent in that pool. Where how that talent would play in a great big other pool, you know, I don't know. You know, you don't know until you put somebody in it. I mean, there's been, you know, some very talented people that when they changed the environment, you know, they never realized the same potential they had in another. You know, like you know, good example. You know, Barry Windham, arguably one of the best all-around performers in the NWA in his prime in the 80s and 90s, that never, I mean, just never got in that niche in the WWE, whether it was with Rotunda or where they had all these different goofy things they had him doing, from the stalker to the, you know, the blackjacks, whatever. They just couldn't figure out what to do with this 6'6" incredible athlete, gifted worker, and they couldn't figure out what to do with it. But yet in the NWA, he could go out there and, you know, do an hour match with Ric Flair and absolutely tear the house down with 20,000+ people in the building. So, you know, it might be that, you know, MJF is best in the environment that he chose. I mean, I'm sure he put a lot of thought into it, but I really thought he was going to make that move and, you know, and throw his hat in there and see what he could do, you know. So, but you know,
I don't know if you do that well with the WWE. When I heard he was going to make that move, because he was so solid, he reminded me of a, and I hope nobody takes this wrong, but a smaller version of Nick Bockwinkel.
That's great, yeah.
You know, the way he worked in the ring, and he was a good heel. But throwing him up in that environment with the WWE, I don't know if that would have worked for him really well.
Well, he's so good on the mic that
I know
his mic skills are up there with anybody.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, it's kind of like CM Punk. CM Punk is so good on the mic. I mean, so good that, you know, if you can talk and you can get them vested in your personality to love you or hate you, whichever flavor you're going for, if you can make people passionately feel some way about you, then, you know, they're going to see money in you. So I would like to have seen it just to see the storylines and where all they could have gone and what they could have done with them. But
Yeah,
you know, he's still
I
young.
was intrigued by it too because I was wondering where they would go with him and how they would treat him up there. Like you say, I mean, on the mic, he's as good as anybody.
I think it's probably going to be. I know he's signed about for how many years, I don't know, but I think it's only going to be a matter of time until he shows up in WWE at a certain
Might be a matter of time before they're all gobbled up by the WWE.
Herring, but good point though, Greg. Hopefully not.
Well, I'll throw a twist at both of you. What do you think they're going to do with their programming? What twist do you think they're going to turn in how they're going to jazz that show up when they're on Netflix and they don't have the guidelines that they're currently having to operate under? I can just imagine they got a flavor of a show coming, the likes of which we probably have never seen, because they're going to have the cuffs are going to be off, and their creative freedom is going to be smack dab wide open from a visual perspective as well as a language perspective. So I think that is going to be a very unique platform of the aggressive way they're going to be able to approach that program, as opposed to what they've done, on Fox and USA and all that stuff.
Greg, would you loosen the tie if you were WWE going into Netflix and knowing that you have a little bit more freedom from a language standpoint, from a content standpoint? How would you handle it if you were in charge of handling that?
If I was, yeah, that would be a great avenue for them. But, I'm not a big believer in having to use vulgar language to get heat.
Yes, you mentioned that with MJF, by the way.
And especially, with our younger generation today, they're already all screwed up. And I don't want to make it any worse for them.
You might be the funniest guy I've ever seen.
You're the moral compass.
What was that one? I didn't hear you.
You're the moral compass.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, you can get your point across without having to use vulgarity.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
No.
And I wasn't really necessarily just saying that. I was saying the violence, because they've been depicting some pretty serious violence.
Oh yeah, they have.
I mean, again, back to Braun Breaker, he looked like he absolutely has killed some people.
Yeah.
It's solid though, TA. It's I don't think he's gone over the top with it yet. Do you?
I don't think so.
Not over the top, but I'm saying they have got to do something edgier than what they're doing, or they wouldn't that network wouldn't be as excited about. I mean, it's just like watching Yellowstone. Okay, yeah. Yellowstone, was like the hottest thing going, and it was edgy from the violence, the storylines, the graphic things that they showed. And just, oh my gosh, you didn't know what was going to come out of somebody's mouth next. And, good, bad, or indifferent, to get people to sway, because it's not going to be just a quick flick for everybody to go to Netflix. So it's going to be interesting to see, how that bridge opens up. Do people, just as quickly, tune in on Netflix as they were when they could just click a quick channel and bump over to something else they're used to doing. Maybe it'll all be just seamless, because I mean we live in a world where we got smart TVs with ability to pivot to watch whatever you want to watch. So it's probably not as big of a deal as it would have been 10 years ago. But I think they're going to crank up the knob a little bit. And I think The Rock gave us a little preview of that by his during his little interjection with Cody and the whole WrestleMania program.
I would be very interested to see, making that transition and going to Netflix. I think almost depending on how they ride this wave, if they're finding that what they're doing is working, they'll probably stick with a good deal of it. But I wouldn't be against them necessarily having, if they're keeping it a 3-hour program over on Netflix, what if you did make that third hour a little bit more racier content, so to speak, where it's like almost primetime television in contrast to like a PG kind of product?
Okay, what would you do to make it more racy?
See, now that's a good question. I would think, to Magnum's point, maybe things get a little bit more, the violence gets a little bit more intense. To your point, I don't think you necessarily need coarser language, because I think that's kind of forced and shoehorned in if you're to do that. But maybe the storyline content can kind of apply to, certain things that you can kind of make a little bit more racier and intriguing, that kind of too, like the point of like a Yellowstone or something to that effect, where it's just like, oh man, yeah, I do need to tune into this because this is the kind of content that's going to engage like an older audience. But the first 2 hours of the show is for pretty much everybody, stuff like that. They could definitely take it in a lot of different avenues. And I would love to see it like, I'm always a big proponent of music and what the impact that does. Now, I know copyright issues and all that stuff and the rights, such a huge money-making thing there. I would love to see that kind of get more implemented in WWE, because I think they've really steered away from having that recognizable music that you have when people walk out. Now, some of them do, but I don't think a whole lot of their talent has engaging music, to be honest. So those are kind of the tweaks I would make. I don't think you necessarily need Netflix to do some of that stuff, but it would definitely pop immediately to bring back on there. So, just my initial thoughts, I guess.
That's good.
Thanks.
I wonder when Yellowstone's coming back.
I haven't yet to see it.
Show.
I need to watch that show. I
watch it all the time.
Yeah.
Laura and I have been waiting for it to come back, and I'm still watching the old stuff. And now, Kevin Costner's such a great, got a great mind for what he does, his business, and especially with with Yellowstone and the new movie he's coming out with, and he's great for cinema, that's for sure. I'm sure, what do they do on Netflix with wrestling? Do they more stories, more violence, more talking, longer matches? What do you do different than what they're doing now?
I think they're cooking pretty well, Magnum, is there anything that really comes to mind that you would do differently?
They wouldn't have to change anything, I don't think. But you're talking about, is it going to be more violent on Netflix than it already is?
They could. They have those, like Magnum said, the cuffs are off a little bit. So
are they going to go to the barbed wire matches?
It's going to change. You can talk around in a circle all you want. It's going to change. It's going to. They will up the ante.
I'm just trying to figure out with you. You got the answers, so I'm asking you.
You're the boss. You got the answers, Magnum.
It's going to change.
I'm not going to book it all for you.
Tell me how it'll change. Not that it's going to fucking change. Give me the answer.
Hey, I got some answers.
Change.
Robert has an answer for you. November 10th, 2024 is when Yellowstone returns. So there you go. November 10th is when Yellowstone comes back. Jerry Grabeau has a good question here. Greg, I've seen a picture or two of you and or Jim a bit beaten up and bloody. My question, did Vern ever blade?
Oh, yeah, I used to, back in the early days, even in the later days, yeah. I got banged up.
Yeah, I believe it.
Bockwinkel smacked him. He knocked him cold a couple times with those chairs. And I think that had a lot to do with, Vern's memory down the road.
Really?
Oh, yeah, because he got hammered really.
Yeah.
Nick was pretty solid with everything and sometimes clumsy with everything.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. That's
why he got me too, knocked me cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was really worried. My dad went down. It was near the end of his career too. And he went down on the floor and he had no idea. And his eyes were just, I thought he'd had it right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Now,
no, we all have. We've all got cut up. We've got broke. Shit, I've had my nose broke 5 times. Concussions. I've got to go in for my 6th back surgery. I found out yesterday.
really?
Yeah, plus a shoulder replacement, and both knees. TA got out early.
Yeah, I just ran to a telephone pole. I said, I'm out of here.
There, like a buck on the log, so I thought I'd throw something out to get your attention.
Greg, I take it. Did
He went through more shit than any of us, and it's. I tell you, my Laura's sister, she always watches our podcast here.
Uh-huh.
She wrote back the other day, and it was the one where we're talking about TA's accident.
Yeah.
And she said, Greg was crying on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I said, well, yeah, I mean, that's a story that still I get very emotional just thinking about what TA went through and how he handled it. And I'll tell you, he's a champ.
It takes another level of man to
He really is.
How about
I'm
that?
giving you credit, buddy. And I always have from day one.
I'm in good company. I'm glad to be with you guys.
You're something else, bud.
100%. So, Greg, I take it, did Vern teach you how to blade?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Back in the 50s, he did.
Can you show us right now?
Can I what?
Can you show us right now?
Me? Oh, shit. I got
air.
all over. Yeah. Shit.
Matt, who taught you how to blade?
I was I told you, my story. So when I broke in, everybody thought I had been working in the territory, so I was supposed to know all that stuff. And my second week in the business, they wanted me to get color working with Gene Kaninsky. And
you worked with Gene?
Yeah, with Gene, and so I had somebody make me one up, and I hadn't perfected my later technique of shading my finger, which is what I did my whole career. But I did the deal, acted like I knew what I was doing and didn't have a flipping clue. And luckily, I didn't open my head up like a canoe, and it worked out okay. But that's a funny story. When I very first met Terry Taylor, he came into Mid-South, and my head looked like I'd been just in a daggone cat fight or something, because I just had all these these red scars across my head, but they were all very shallow, like superficial scars, and I can look horrible and Neosporin up, and in 3 days' time you couldn't even tell I'd done anything. Really? And Taylor came in and he said, man, you're killing yourself. Your head looks terrible. I'm going to show you how to do this. And his dad was in the medical profession, and he had surgical blades like surgeons used that he made his blade out of. Well, that evening I had to take him to the emergency room to get about 10 stitches in his head. Mister going to show me how to do it. Opened his head up like he was going to perform brain surgery. And I said, well, you might want to rethink your method a little bit, because it's going to be a little expensive over time going to the hospital every time you had to do a blade job.
The worst one I ever saw was on TV. Mad Dog and his brother Butcher were in the ring, and Crusher came in and hit Mad Dog with a chair just as he was doing his thing, and it cut the artery. And this was live TV, and that blood was just squirting out like that, and it was everywhere. And the announcer was going absolutely bananas. Get the ambulance in here. He's going to bleed to death. And I'll tell you what, that thing, though, they took those matches around, and they beat the hell out of each other. Mad Dog was so mad. I mean, he would tear into the Crusher, beat the shit out of him, and Crusher would hammer him. We'd just go out to watch the matches, and they would come back just bloody messes. But boy, that was really a dandy. It took him about 9 stitches, but that thing was just squirting just like that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was the hard ways that scared me, because guys that got, accidents. Don Kernoodle was working with Nikita Koloff when I first came in with Crockett's, and he went to hit Nikita with a sickle out on the floor, and his arm went around the post, and the the hook in the turnbuckle caught his arm and ripped his arm open right at the elbow, and he got the artery, and if it hadn't been for a nurse that was on the front row stepping up and stopping the blood under his armpit, he'd have bled out.
Wow.
And so, I mean, those things could happen just like that.
Yeah.
And somebody think it's part of the show, but I mean, he instantly had enough blood on the floor. It looked like somebody poured like 2 pints out. It was horrifying.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, you think about too that recent one a couple of years ago now, but FTR, when Cash Wheeler caught his elbow off that post, the ring post, and like they thought his career might have been over and everything like that because it was so bad. But it's unnerving when you see it happen the hard way and stuff like that.
Oh boy, and it happens quite a bit.
Yeah, holy smokes. What was I gonna say too? Something about blading and things like that.
I got hit in the face, broke my nose by a fan.
Really?
He threw the chair at Bobby Heenan. Bobby Heenan ducked, and
You got it.
Exploded.
Whoa. Oh man. Here we go. Rob wants to know, producer Robert, who taught Ric Flair how to blade, and do they regret it?
Rick was great. I mean, Rick, for what he did every night, I mean, his head looked. I mean, he doesn't look like Abdullah or
Dusty.
Guys that I mean, Dusty had a terrible head, and so many guys.
He's had some surgery up there, though. He told me one time.
He may have, but he did. I mean, he did shallow. He did a lot of shallow cuts. He didn't do those deep cuts either. And I mean, and he, I mean, we were getting color 7 days a week. That was just part of, you got put on your boots and your tape and your gear and your blade, and you went to the ring. That was, I mean, literally, it was 7 days a week.
Wow. See, that's what I was going to ask you guys next. Is how often how selective would they be at matches when you would blade, because you don't want it in every match. You see that sometimes.
Well, but you were going through a whole territory back then. It wasn't like Tully and I worked a program for 8 months. 8 months of that battle crap we did everywhere, and so every place we went was that kind of thing. Just like he's talking about Bad Dog and those guys, and that's what people expected to see. Mm-hmm. So it was that violence was. Without the color, when kind of your foundation has been built on that, and the Mid-Atlantic was like that, the Florida was like that, Mid-South was like that. They didn't think you had really damaged somebody or got damaged if they didn't see blood. Yeah, I mean, it's just where it was. They weren't about watching somebody fight for an hour over a wrist lock and a headlock and the tickles and tackles. They wanted to see blood and guts and gore, and and there used to be the old story, red makes green, and it did. It drew people in.
Oh yeah.
Greg, was
was a little different with the AWA?
Yeah, explain that. I was going to ask you. Was it a little different? How? In what way?
It was just certain matches, certain people. And that was, I mean, the build up to the cage match, and of course, then you'd have to have it. Setting up an angle on TV, you might do it, but it was saved for one match and one match only. And he was very strict about that. He wanted you to be able to get your heat and make your comebacks and be able to wrestle. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was his foundation. And when it came to that, and then you had to have it, but it was seldom.
Yeah.
It meant more then.
Yeah, right. Just the different ways of handling it back then. It's pretty fascinating because you look at all old school wrestling magazines, and everybody's donning the crimson mask, and it's like, oh, it's what all the old fans talk about too.
Oh yeah.
Well, the kayfabe was such a deal that, and to Greg's point, it wasn't every match by any stretch of the imagination. But if you were a main event player and you're in the main event, I'd say the semi or the main, either one, that was very, very common. And it wasn't even anything you talked about. It was just something you were prepared for because it was just part of the deal. But I mean, it's like, obviously the things we do are just ridiculous anyway. But anybody knows, we're 250 pounds, and two guys can walk outside of a bar, and one guy pops somebody in and splits his eyebrow, his head open, and the blood and everything else in them. And we're out there going 20, 30 minutes, exchange in those exchanges and everything. And if you can't bust a grape, basically, with your punches, if your punches aren't showing some visible sign of having done something, it's hard to maintain that level of credibility.
Yes, yeah.
When you're fighting, when you're having fight, if you're having a wrestling match and it's not getting to that level, punches, a punch here, a punch there, a kick here, a forearm there. But when you have those brawls, man, I mean, it's a flipping, Katie bar the door.
Mm-hmm.
Well, our resident researcher for the Arn show, Andrew Hermes, says there was an I Quit match too. Pretty good from what I heard. And then
I know a guy.
Yeah, you know a guy.
You asked that question
about a certain I Quit match, Greg. That happened.
Okay, but who's asking the question?
Oh no, it was just a mention is all.
Oh,
yeah, and it was it's so flattering that it's talked about all these years, because in reality, Tully and I both have said this. I suspect we had that match or better in a lot of other places that was never televised, because we just that one just happened to have a very unique conclusion because of the interjecting the chair. The chair ended up producing this weapon that looked so dastardly, and it was just a visual of this thing looked like a spike running through somebody's head. That was I mean, we couldn't have Hollywooded that up and came up with that. And if we'd wanted it to be that cool, it wouldn't have been. It just it was spontaneous. And I remember laying there watching Telly just beating this chair to oblivion to try to get something that looked like a weapon, and then came up with that thing. I said, that'll do it. That's gonna work.
That'll do the trick. Andrew also chimed in and mentioned about too how Triple H bled like crazy too, and then CB followed up and said he did a fantastic blade job at Judgment Day 2001. I don't necessarily remember that, but kind of back to the conversation we were talking about earlier with Netflix. Triple H is in charge. Maybe we'll see a little bit more crimson going on the product a little bit here and there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't ever want to see light bulbs breaking over people's heads and crap like that. Yeah, but homage to some of the stuff, and you got to find that fine line, because what ECW did, during their heyday and trying to go to the most extremes and all that stuff. I mean, poor Sabu is like beat his flipping body to death, like a kamikaze for the business, and a lot of guys, and Greg. Here's Greg in a place where they wrestled and he can't hardly get around. He's had the whole body put back together. Because they were a traditional wrestling, type stylization, and thank goodness he didn't have to go out there with Bruiser Brody, 7 nights a week.
Not 7 nights, but I had to go out with him.
I know.
Hey, you earned his
respect. I didn't want to.
I didn't want to.
He said, I want you. I said, well, I don't want you.
I don't want you.
But, it was when I was down in St. Louis last week. I was with Frank's wife, Barb British, and she came up to me because some people were asking about Brody and wrestling Greg. And she said he had more respect for Greg because he wanted to be with him in the ring. because somebody had asked her the question. She said, because he fought hard. And I did. I fought as hard as I could, hitting that son of a bee.
You're fighting for your life. It's inspiring.
You had to. You're
First
not
time
giving
he
up.
kicked me, I thought my head went up in the upper deck somewhere. Yeah, but you know, he respected you, but you had to fight, you had to battle him. And if you gave him a good hard comeback and you fired in, and he would fight you back, and you keep fighting, he loved that. And you know, that's what I was taught to do it. You know, some other guys did not. You know, they were good baby faces, but they didn't have that fire or that comeback or whatever. You know, some people have and some don't. And I guess I was lucky enough to have it.
Yeah.
I wasn't the biggest guy in the world, but I fought for my life every night in there.
Well, that reminds
you
me.
got to have the underdogs. The
Yep.
underdogs, the underdogs, you know, the Brian Danielsons of the world, the guys that aren't the biggest dog in the fight, but, you know, have passion. That's what make, if they're all the landed giants, then there's no contrast and there's no something people can relate to. They want to see those monsters, but they want to see somebody out there that could be them. I could have done that.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. They want to live vicariously through you. This reminded me, talk about Bruiser. Flair was on Busted Open Radio this week, and he talked about how much money that Bruiser and Stan made in Japan in comparison to like what even he would do as the champion when he would go over there. He said that they would make $25,000 a week back then in Japan. And that when Flair would go there to do a tour for like a week or whatever, and he would only do it like here and there, he would only get $12,000. So it just speaks to the star power of
Shit, we were doing better than him.
Yeah. Were you?
Yeah.
What were you doing, Greg? What were you doing in Japan?
Oh yeah, shit. We went over there as tag team champions in a tag team tournament against them. We did really well.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Ooh. So
Giant Bubba took care of us.
How about that?
Yeah.
Well, geez. Well, there we go. There's a little bit of news
There you go.
How about that?
I'm not saying what that number was, but it was a very good number.
I believe you.
And we had to wrestle Hanson and Brody twice in 2 weeks. Yeah, in a big tournament.
Wow.
Jumbo Tsuruta and Tenaru, Giant Bubba and Dory Funk Jr., and then Brody and Hanson and Jim and myself. We were the four in this tournament. So we had to do double rounds with everybody, and we ended up long matches. Brody and Hanson are the first one we had with them. We had beat Tsuruta and Tenaru in about 50 minutes. Then we had Giant Bubba and Dory Funk, and he was the NWA champion. And we won that match in, 52 minutes or something. Then we had Brody and Hanson. And we went out and got in the ring. And I'm talking to Jim. He's facing where Hanson and Brody are coming out. And, we had a little talk in the locker room. Oh, shit, this would be good. Nothing that was talked about happened.
Nothing that got written down.
I'm looking, and they came flying through that, and the crowd was banana. I mean, they loved Hanson and Brody over there. They just erupted. And here they came with the cowbell and the chain. I got hit with the chain, Brunzell with the cowbell, out of the ring, back through the people into a wall, hit us with the fire extinguisher. We both got cut the hard way. Back to the ring, back in the ring. And we went about 35 minutes with them like this. And,
wow.
And we're both bleeding. And I remember this. Jim was in the ring, and Brody had him, and I came off the top rope with an elbow, and Brody went to his knees. Mm-hmm. And then I see Brunzell get fired over the top rope by Hanson. And as I'm looking, Brody bear hugs me from his knees, and his head's here, and Hanson hits the ropes and hits me with that big lariat.
Oh my God.
And that was the last thing I remembered.
Jeez.
And that was about 38 minutes with them. And then we had to meet them in the finals, and they'd never been beat there. And we won that one in the finals.
So this was all in one night, Greg? This all happened?
Well, 2 weeks.
Okay, I was gonna say, geez, you had a 50-minute match and you had all this in one.
Well, 3 nights in a row. Yeah, we'd have the first night we had, I don't know, one of their younger teams, and we only went about 15 minutes, and then the tournament started. We had Sruta and Tenaru for 50 minutes, and then Giant Bubba. Whoop! Did I lose you?
No, you're good. Can you hear
I
us?
lost my picture here.
Uh-oh, we can hear you.
Oh, there it is.
There you are.
So then we had Giant Bubba and Dory Funk, and Dory was interesting to be in there with. A lot of wrestling, and then Giant Bubba would come in and he threw me in the ropes, give me that big foot, and I came flying off those ropes. I ran into his foot, knocked him right over. Dory screamed, "What did you do?"
Yes.
I hit him and took a big bump, and here he went, the 7-footer over, and Brunzell's yelling, "What are you doing, you dumb shit?"
My goodness.
Yeah.
There's some good questions. I want to save some of these though for next week because there's some really good ones here. I did want to follow up on that, Greg. This might just be my naivete tuning in, but so Dory Funk, NWA champion. I know Bruno Sammartino had a great relationship with All Japan Wrestling. He's the WWF champion. And then obviously Vern and you guys going over there. Was there any concern about those promotions getting mixed in there with All Japan, like all those different ones that are competing with one another? Or was it just a good, Bubba create a good environment?
Had their own thing. I mean, Giant Bubba worked with the AWA, and then, Hanson and Brody were kind of independent.
Yep.
Of everybody else. And then, I think Bubba's was New Japan at the time. And then I forget what the other organization, Inoki had one.
Inoki was New Japan. He started.
Right. And I think he had, Bruno and those guys over there.
Bruno was with All Japan. He had a strong relationship.
He was with All Japan.
Yep.
So, but everybody had their groups they went with.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I was curious.
And Vern worked close with Giant Bubba, and that's who we always went over there for.
Okay. So I was curious about that. That's pretty.
TA, were you able to get over there in your career? Or?
I was supposed to go in February of the following. The crash was in October, and I was supposed to go in February. It was going to be my first time.
Oh man, you'd have been a big star over there.
Were you excited?
I just wanted to go there and eat some sushi and
Yeah, I tell you what, a little different, man. First time over there, we went. Bob Bruggers and myself. We were the two rookies, and the other guys were all main eventers. They're getting $5 or $10 grand a week, and we're getting $1,200. And you get in the bus and you drive, and they stop at these gas stations, and they all run in and they get this soup, and we go in there, and the soup is eyeballs and fish heads. And those guys are just eating it up. And I mean, we went a couple of days with not hardly eating much, eating a lot just the rice. And then we finally found these Korean barbecues. You go in and get the Kobe beef. And Stan Hansen took us, Blackjack Mulligan took us in there. And we started with you cook it on a little barbecue and you get rice with that. So that was every night we'd try to find one of those. But when you get out in these smaller towns, there wasn't much open. So it was tough. 6 weeks we were there.
Yeah, you'd be eating dogs and cats and monkeys.
Oh, I tell you, some of the stuff we got into Sapporo, and the king crabs were running at the time, and they were selling them on the street. They would boil them and then sell them on the street. So Bruggers and I got this great big freaking crab. It was like this and legs up here. And we got some beer, took it to our room, got some butter, melted it up. That's what we ate that night.
There you go.
Finished that whole thing off too.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. That was an interesting trip over there. Dale Lewis, Moose Cholak, Blackjack Mulligan, and two guys from South Africa. And we had a hell of a bit. I'll tell you, Mulligan and I had a hell of a time. We got in a little trouble over there.
Did you?
Yeah.
Maybe we should save that for another episode.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what happened later.
I'll be After Dark on Netflix.
Yeah.
That's what they're putting on Netflix.
I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I was safe, but
That's what WD should do, Greg, is just have you do like a Letterman show. That's how when they bring you on to Netflix, you close out the final hour and it's just you.
Well, I'll be TA. He's a better host. I'll just be the sidekick.
There we go. Let's just bring that show. Let's bring this show over to Netflix.
Yeah. Write him a letter. Tell him we got a good show here.
That's it. I look like Paul Schaefer anyway, so we got this down. All right. This was a good episode. Guys, what I did, Matt Karsher, Jacob Dorfman, Paul Sean, and Italian, I screenshotted your questions, so we'll get to those next week. I promise you that. So, but guys, if you like what you're seeing, be sure to like, subscribe, share, get the word out about fourhorsemannetwork.com. Arn Anderson's on there. We're there. But also be sure to scan that QR code you see right over there. Boom, PowerTown. And check out, if you're tuning in live right now, this is your last chance to get those TNA figures to pre-order for the bundle $188.99 or $189.99, or you can get them individually for $49. Get them while you can, because that was closing. And by the time you hear this, if you're tuning in on Tuesday as usual, they're already gone. So sorry, guys. Gonzo. But
go to PowerTownWrestling.com. We got some great stuff, and we got great people working behind us. And TA is the champ. He's my champ.
He's the champ. He's the boss. Greg's the facilitator.
I'm just the sidekick.
His sidekick. I'm just along for the ride. But I am Dominic D'Angelo. That's Greg Gagne. You can follow him on Instagram at Gagne.Greg. Great pictures, amazing pictures. And we got Magnum TA. Follow him on Twitter at The Real Magnum TA. But you can also follow him on Instagram at Magnum_TA. And you can follow me on X, Twitter at Dominic D'Angelo. But guys, great episode. I want to see Greg show us how to blade next week. Next week, he's going to show on air how we're going to blade.
I am? Okay.
Yeah, you are. So get ready. Get ready.
I'm the sidekick.
Get those doctor scalpels.
We're just going to have to go hit him with a frying pan. We'll be good.
That's easy enough. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in this week on Straight Talk with the Boss, Magnum TA, and Greg Gagne.